It hasn't happened in 19 years. Tonight, rolling blackouts in neighborhoods throughout Southern California as Cal ISO declares a stage 3 emergency. It's all because of excessive heat driving up electricity use. And this heat wave is just getting started. Dallas Raines has details on the sizzling weekend that's ahead of us. But first, Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter with more on tonight's power emergency and where the lights could go out next. Leanne. But first, Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter with more on tonight's power emergency and where the lights could go out next.
Mark, the good news tonight, no more power outages, at least not tonight. The state's power supply now back up to full supply, but tomorrow will be another day of major demand. The buzz of electricity after power is restored to this Simi Valley neighborhood after rolling blackouts left them in the dark in the midst of a heat wave.
It got so hot so fast. And I went with a walk with my neighbor, and she has a 2-story. And she was like, it's like as hot inside as it is outside right now.
Cal ISO, which runs the state's electric grid, declaring a statewide stage 3 emergency for the first time in nearly 2 decades as the excessive heat drove up electricity demand, putting a serious strain on the system.
It was triggered by not enough energy, and we started to dip into our reserves, which is dangerous.
The rolling outages hitting neighborhoods all across the state. In most places, the power was out for about an hour or less, and for many, it came as a surprise.
I'm like, wait a minute, there's no lights in here, something's going on. So that's when I realized there was no power. And the first thing that went to my mind was, great, how am I supposed to eat dinner? Because I haven't had dinner yet.
No power meant pizza for dinner. With temperatures expected to remain in the triple digits for several days, power officials are urging residents to conserve as more rolling outages may be possible if demand overtakes supply.
We got a generator because we had that problem before and it was out for days. And, refrigerator and all that food, that's like $200 right there if we lost that.
Yes, certainly can be costly, and they are the lucky ones prepared for more possible power outages. Again, officials urging conservation. They say things as simple as turning off the lights when you leave a room can make a big difference.
Now, businesses up here in El Dorado Hills had to close early when the power went out just hours ago, not to mention the lack of air conditioning. I spoke with one lady who lives not too far away from here in Shingle Springs, and she told me that the most frustrating part about all of this was the lack of warning. For the first time in almost 2 decades, the operator of California's power grid, Cal ISO, declared a stage 3 emergency. It happens when there are high temperatures and the increased electricity demand outpaces available supply. As a result, PG&E said earlier this evening that up to 250,000 customers at a time would be impacted by rotating power outages lasting up to an hour. As we spoke with Melanie King in the middle of her outage, the power suddenly turned back on.
Just that thousands didn't have it. Oh, guess what? It's on.
After how long?
It went off at 6:15. So what time is it?
It's about 8:46 now. So, more than an hour.
First I called PG&E. They said they didn't know of any outage, and they would get back to me.
These outages are different than the public safety power shutoffs PG&E conducts during high wildfire conditions. PG&E says because the overloaded grid led to a widespread electrical emergency, they weren't able to give any advance notice. But Melanie King says a warning is essential for people like her and her husband.
We live in, a retirement place. They need electric for their health stuff that they have plugged in. So if people aren't warned, it's super dangerous.
Not to mention, no electricity means no air conditioning, as we face more than a week of dangerously high temperatures ahead.
Thousands of SDG&E customers found themselves without power tonight in the middle of our heat wave. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto. Barbara Lee will join us in a moment. The state's independent system operator ordered SDG&E to carry out rotating outages as the excessive heat continues to drive up our electricity usage throughout the region. News 8's Richard Allen has more on the warning to all customers to conserve and why we may not have seen the last of these outages.
Well, that's right. These rotating power outages impacted nearly 59,000 SDG&E customers, including, we're told, this Walmart behind me here. And while power is now restored and the outages are complete for this evening, they could possibly return tomorrow.
This is the first time this has been done in over a decade.
An exceedingly rare move by the California Independent System Operator, the overseer of the state's power grid, directing SDG&E Friday evening to enact rotating hour-long power outages throughout its service area, spanning from Dana Point in southern Orange County all the way to the border. Areas prone to high fire danger, though, were not impacted.
We are doing this to prevent a major blackout.
This comes as a result of the excessive heat driving up electricity use throughout our region, especially as most San Diegans are now at home during the COVID pandemic.
We are encouraging you to conserve your energy usage so that way we can prevent more outages from happening.
As long as it's safe, SDG&E is recommending turning off your AC during this emergency, while also cutting down on your use of dishwashers, washing machines, and dryers as much as possible. Keep your fridge and freezer doors closed and switch off any lights you don't need. Advice to keep in mind as these hot temperatures continue throughout the weekend and into next week. And be forewarned.
There is a good chance that this could possibly happen tomorrow.
And be forewarned.
There is a good chance that this could possibly happen tomorrow.
And be forewarned.
There is a good chance that this could possibly happen tomorrow.